We start tonight with a Fox News alert. Today, massive and great news. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped a whopping 1,290 points. And as the Dow, the S&P, and as the NASDAQ all saw record highest single day point gains in American history. Now, after a week of corona-related panic, lies, propaganda, misinformation, thankfully the market is roaring back and in a big way. We have a full report coming up on the program tonight. But first, in 246 days, and it's going to go like that, you are the ultimate jury. You will have a chance to once again shock the world and send President Trump back to the White House for 4 more years. But it needs to be very clear to every American, and we will try and make it clear every night on this program, and the Democrats, the media mob, they will stop at nothing. They will do anything, and I mean anything, to stop Donald Trump. Their rage, hate, Trump psychosis is even far worse than I thought. The level of derangement is off the charts. And now, tonight especially, I want you to pay very close attention as we prove our point, because they're now using the natural fear of a virus as a political weapon. And we have all the evidence to prove it. A shameful politicizing, weaponizing of, yes, the coronavirus. Remember, first Russia, impeach, obstruction, whatever. Now the left, the Democrats, the media mob, they are smearing the president and his administration over the spread of the coronavirus in beyond egregious ways. The double standard and hypocrisy of the mob and the Democrats has never been worse. So tonight we ask you to pay very close attention as we prove this point to you. Now, the information we are giving you is not information you're going to find anywhere else, and it will expose yet again the absolute corruption, dishonesty, fraud, and the political agenda of Democrats and the media mob, well, their state-run TV. We start with smear number 1. For days, the left has been claiming the president is not prepared to handle the disease effectively. Well, as a matter of fact, Biden, Bloomberg, the entire mob in the media, others said President Trump cut the funding to NIH and CDC. That is 100% false. The exact opposite happened. Funding actually went up. In fact, a recent study from Johns Hopkins University ranked the United States number 1. We're number 1 in the world at pandemic preparedness, and we are by far the most prepared. The next lie from the media mob and Democrats is the claim the president did not act quickly enough. That is a bold-faced lie. Let's look at the truth that nobody else will report, and we have an actual timeline, and you can follow along at home. It's like follow the bouncing ball. Now, this officially started, believe it or not, on December 30th, 2019, not that long ago. We had a cluster of patients with pneumonia in this unknown province that was observed in Wuhan, China. Now, that was reported to the World Health Organization. It wasn't until January 7th that the virus, the coronavirus, was actually identified and isolated in these patients. Then just 3 weeks later, on January 31st of this year, the president declared a public health emergency. And that meant Americans returning from areas most impacted, they were subject to mandatory quarantine, 2 weeks on military bases. That's when the travel ban began. 2 days later, temporary travel ban went into effect for all non-U.S. citizens who recently visited China. And my sources who were actually in the room when the president made this decision on January 31st said, well, there were about 25 people in the room. No one agreed with the president to implement the travel ban, said that there'd be political consequences if he did, but he did it anyway. And he did it in record time. Everyone else said, well, maybe it's too early. He made the call, and my sources confirmed to me tonight. You could stop right there. This one early, bold decision of this president likely prevented thousands and thousands of Americans from contracting this virus. Has anyone in the media mob told you that? And meanwhile, it wasn't until February the 11th that the World Health Organization officially named the virus. The president was way ahead of them. Now, a task force led by Trump's number 2, Vice President Pence, is underway. It is filled with America's top scientists. So far, thankfully, less than 10 people in the country have died from this virus. Now, we need to put that in perspective. Let us compare this to H1N1, swine flu virus, as it's known. Now, this hit the U.S. in April of 2009. It wasn't until 6 months later, in October of 2009, after more than 20,000 Americans were hospitalized, more than 1,000 of our fellow citizens died, Only then did President Obama and, quid pro quo Joe declare a national emergency. After 20,000 of our fellow citizens hospitalized, more than 1,000 dead Americans. Now, do you remember at that time anybody in the media stirring up the type of hysteria as they're doing now? Do you remember the end of days predictions? Did the stock market tank because of all the reckless lying and fear mongering? That did not happen in 2009. In fact, the market went up as swine flu cases mounted. Pretty interesting. A tale of two presidents. On the one side, you got Obama, Biden. They get the white glove treatment from, of course, their willing accomplices and fellow radical extreme socialists in the Democratic Party. On the other side, the mob in 3 weeks bludgeons President Trump, weaponizing this virus to destroy him politically. One person at Yahoo News even suggesting this could be Trump's Katrina. The Washington Post also openly wondering if it would become Trump's Katrina. New York Times hack Paul Krugman actually cheered. How do you cheer when we're losing money when the stock market fell? 25,000. New York Times editorial. New York Times said this is the Trump virus, writing, if you're feeling awful, you know who to blame. By the way, as President Trump was literally reacting in record time, what were the Democrats doing to prepare this country for the pandemic at the end of January and early February? Well, they couldn't be bothered. Why? Because they were all consumed with their impeachment, conspiracy theories, hoax, and witch hunt. Now, the final vote didn't take place on impeachment until February the 12th, nearly 2 weeks after President Trump acted decisively with an aggressive plan, frankly unprecedented, to stop the spread of the coronavirus when he had his travel ban put in place. He did all of this while he was being impeached. And when the president put in place the travel ban, at that time, that guy, quid pro quo Joe, called the president's travel ban and quarantine efforts, quote, part of a record of xenophobia and fear-mongering. Oh, so many more thousands of people. How many more would have contracted the virus if we didn't quarantine people that came in from China, our citizens, for 2 weeks, and we didn't have a travel ban? Sorry, your part of the world's sick. You can't get in. He did that in 3 weeks. Biden, Obama, they waited 6 months and 1,000 people died in 2009 and 10. Fake news CNN, what were they saying at the time with the travel ban? Well, they were promoting the potential stigma and fear that the travel ban would cause. And fake news CNN would have also been responsible if, in fact, the ban wasn't in place and thousands of our fellow Americans contracted this disease. And they'd be critical of Trump for doing that. And now the Democrats and the mob, they are just outright lying. You got NBC News, fake news CNN, MSDNC, others, Share, Hollywood, actually claiming that the president is calling the coronavirus a hoax. Nope, that's another complete lie. Instead, the president called the weaponization and politicizing of the virus a hoax. And we have the tape to prove it. Take a look.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that, right? Coronavirus. They're politicizing it. We did one of the great jobs. You say, how's President Trump doing? They go, oh, not good, not good. One of my people came up to me and said, Mr. President, they tried to beat you on Russia, Russia, Russia. That didn't work out too well. They couldn't do it. They tried the impeachment hoax. They tried it over and over. They've been doing it since you got in. It's all turning. They lost. It's all turning. Think of it. Think of it. And this is their new hoax.
The president didn't call the virus a hoax. No, he put in place quarantines and he put in place a travel ban. But the mob and the media, why would they ever let facts get in the way of a good anti-Trump smear, which is all they've been doing for 3 years? Take a look.
Just tonight at a rally, he went a step further and called the coronavirus a hoax.
This is the same president who referred to the coronavirus as a hoax.
How do they answer that a guy like Senator Sanders is more capable than Donald Trump, who has called the coronavirus, by the way, a hoax?
President Trump laid into Democrats for raising alarm, calling it a hoax.
You know, the idea that Donald Trump said just several days ago this was a Democratic hoax, what in God's name is he talking about?
I find it incomprehensible that the president would do something as inane as calling it a hoax, which he did last night in South Carolina.
He said that the Democrats making so much of it is a Democratic hoax, not that the virus was a hoax.
They're all all lying yet again because of a political agenda, a hate Trump agenda, but not a word, not a peep in 2009 and 10. 20,000 of our fellow Americans contracting swine flu for 6 months. What did Biden Obama do? Nothing. 1,000 dead Americans. Oh, now we'll declare a national emergency. That is how corrupt and morally bankrupt your media mob has become and your Democratic Party is. Then you got late night liberal Bill Maher. Well, he might take the cake. Over the weekend, he actually claimed that the president would like to use the virus to declare martial law. This is the same guy, by the way, that wanted, a recession because it would help the Democrats. Take a look.
Now, since Trump, I think, is not going to leave anyway, might as well run Bernie. He's not. He's not. And by the way, when the virus gets bad, he's going to declare martial law. Watch that.
Oh, my God.
That could happen. That could totally happen.
Lies, conspiracy theories, smears, slander, besmirchment from the media, unlike anything we've ever experienced. This is a raw, naked political agenda. They hate the president, but they also hate those of us smelly Walmart Trump supporters that believe in God, our guns, our Bibles, Constitution. They're not looking out for your safety or security or well-being. The one thing they care about, and the only thing, is placating this psychotic rage, hypocrisy, and double standard because they hate Donald Trump. That's why this election means something more than any other in my lifetime. In 246 days, you cannot reward this.